your just feelings around either of these two teams and maybe the excitement of a big Game 5 heading into tonight are what?
Yeah, baseball in the postseason. It's no fun, is it?
No,
It's
I
all
love it and hate it at the
stress and
same
nerves.
time.
It's terrible. I mean, you guys know I'm a longtime Mariners fan, so I'm not completely impartial. So I feel it. I have my Mariners text chain with some longtime friends, and I'm feeling that nervousness, no doubt. But that's the fun of October.
How? How do we do this? How do we get this done?
Coach us
I need
through.
the answers right now, please.
Well, okay, maybe you guys have come across this stat I saw it the other day. You've probably mentioned it, but Randy Johnson for the Mariners in 1997, he was 20-4, 2.28 ERA, unbeatable, right? He pitched against the Orioles that year 5 times, including twice in the playoffs. The Orioles won all 5 games. So that's what the Mariners are trying to replicate. They've faced Tarik Skubal 3 times this year, and they've won all 3 of those games. So it can happen, Mariners fans. It can happen. It's not going to be easy. It's going to obviously have to be a low-scoring game. And remember, Cleveland, you guys have probably mentioned this. Cleveland was in this situation last year and beat Tarik Skubal in Game 5. So it can happen.
All right. Well, let's talk about this. We already know the pitching matchup on the other side with Tarik Skubal, and we previewed that already for Game 2. We know exactly what to expect with him and kind of know what the plan of attack needs to be, or if there is one at all. But what did you make of Kirby? It was really between Kirby or Castillo getting the start for Game 5. Not shocking that it's Kirby at all, but what did you make of that decision? And do you think that there's a chance we still see Castillo tonight?
Yeah, obviously he's on, 4 days of rest, so it's absolutely available. I'm not sure. We've seen a lot of quick hooks in these playoffs for managers across the sport, and it seems like the modern way of managing is you go in with your game plan, which whatever that might be, and you just kind of map it out no matter how well the starter's doing. It wouldn't shock me if let's assume Kerry Carpenter is hitting leadoff again, right? I haven't seen the lineups. They won't be out yet. But let's assume he's leadoff. Do you go Kirby just one time through the order, and then you go Castillo one time through the order, and then you go to the bullpen? I'm not sure. We all know Kerry Carpenter versus George Kirby is not George Kirby's best matchup. So that wouldn't shock me if that's in the game plan. Obviously, you're feeling and seeing how George is doing. And look, he pitched really well Game 1. One mistake, but there's no doubt that Kirby-Carpenter matchup is going to influence what Dan Wilson does, from the 3rd, 4th, 5th inning on.
We know the players have to win the ball game, but in the playoffs, man, the skipper's decisions are just amplified. What type of pressure is Dan under? I mean, we've scratched our head a couple of times this playoffs on some decision making, but he's got to be feeling it.
Yeah. Again, you look at how all these managers are managing, and if there's one sort of consistent maneuver, they're going to go to the pen earlier rather than later, and I think Dan Wilson, he made that adjustment after Game 1, when he left Kirby. And I don't think that was an awful decision, but the numbers are the numbers. Probably should have gone to the pen. That's what we're seeing. But you're not trusting Caleb Ferguson. He's not going to be in the mix. No way. Gabe Spire's been great all year. I know he wasn't good the other day. You got to trust him again. And I think Dan made the right move the other day when he went to the pen. It just didn't work out with Spire and Bizzardo. You got to trust those guys. Bizzardo's been great for 2 months. You're going to have to trust Matt Brash. I know he makes us all a little nervous, but you're going to have to trust them. The bullpen's been good, so you're going to probably figure at least 4 innings from the pen, right? Spire, Bizzardo, Brash, and Moon, maybe 2 innings from Munoz. Then you play it by ear with the other guys, and you throw in Castillo. So that's why I'm saying probably a quick hook with George Kirby tonight, because this is what we're seeing. The more pitchers you run out, it seems to be working in this playoffs.
If someone asked, like, hey, who's a bat that becomes vitally important for Seattle? I know that we aren't expecting a high-scoring game. I know that in the postseason in general, runs are pretty hard to come by. Is it hard not to turn to Julio, though? Even though Jorge Polanco had those 2 bombs against Skubal in Game 2, is it hard not to look at Julio and go, man, like, this is kind of those moments that you think he can meet?
Yeah, look, this is the moment the superstars got to step up, right? So you're looking at Julio and Cal, no doubt about it. Look what happened to the Phillies. Schwarber and Harper didn't do the job. They're out in 4, so you need those superstars. I saw a stat today that the Mariners are number 1 in baseball in average and I think in home runs when swinging at the first pitch. Well, Skubal, he gave up 17 home runs in the regular season, 7 of those on the first pitch. Julio's kind of a first pitch guy. We know when he gets to 2 strikes, he tends to chase out of the zone. So Julio, I'm telling him, be aggressive early in the count, attack that fastball because you don't want to get to Skubal with 2 strikes and that unhittable changeup. So I think they're going to be aggressive early in the count.
I grew up in L.A., and the Seattle fans here know that I'm a Dodger and I'm a Mariner at the same time. And when I say that, they just assume that I grew up just with privilege with the Dodgers. I have to remind them, like, we didn't win a lot when I was growing up, didn't win any championships. But obviously the past 10 years have been good. What would a series win do for just the Mariners and the way they're perceived across the baseball world?
Yeah, here's the one way I look at this. Clearly, the American League is wide open. And even I'd say this, across the National League as well. If there's not a dominant team in baseball, that door is open. Seattle, this is the best team the Mariners have had since 2001, no doubt about it. Best offensive team, deep pitching staff. You get past Detroit, Toronto's been playing great, but momentum dies with yesterday's game. There's no such thing as momentum in baseball. So if Seattle can win tonight, they absolutely got a shot to beat the Blue Jays, to beat whoever comes out of the National League. And it's kind of just, I know you want the World Series, you got to go one step at a time, but it's the culmination on everything this organization has been building, since 2021. So you haven't won a play, you got to win that playoff series one at a time. So it's just a huge step in where this organization is at and where it's going in the future.
I'm going to build on that a little bit, David. You're one of us, but also representing us on a broader scale because you're so well connected and you talk to so many national voices. Kind of related to what Bump asked you, have you found that your conversations, I don't know, with guys like Buster or with people around the league have changed about the Mariners, that there's maybe a growing interest or confidence?
Yeah, no doubt. I know you just mentioned Buster Olney. I know he picked Seattle at the start of the playoffs. I think I'd have to go back and see when we did all our predictions on ESPN. I think the Mariners were the consensus pick in the AL. It was a crapshoot, but I think we're looking at the Yankees have the bullpen issues. Toronto, people weren't really buying into the Blue Jays. They looked really great against the Yankees, of course. The Dodgers, they've had their own bullpen issues, although Roki Sasaki is pretty good. There's just all these teams, everybody has a flaw this year. And with the Mariners, really, as I've said before, quote-unquote flaw this year was the rotation wasn't as good as it was last year, right? Injuries and so on. So the belief was if that rotation can pitch up to their potential, it's a really, really good team, So tonight's George Kirby's on the spot. Dan Wilson, he made a bold pick by choosing him to start Game 1, right? That wasn't a sure thing for sure why he went with Kirby over, Logan Gilbert. Obviously, it would have been Brian Wu if he'd been healthy, but he went with Kirby, and now Kirby's going to have that chance to prove that was the right choice.
I got to ask you about the finish to the Dodgers-Phillies game last night. Have you ever seen anything like that?
No, I mean, you feel bad for the kid, Kirkering, for the Phillies. He just, locked up in that situation. I guess it was the second postseason series ever to end on an error, the 11th postseason game ever to end on an error. There's going to be the comparisons to Bill Buckner, except the Red Sox had another game in 1986. They could have won Game 7, and they didn't. The Phillies, That was the season. So, I mean, I'm watching I wasn't there, but, if you saw videos, Kyle Schwarber, who's a free agent, fighting off tears, in the clubhouse, because the Phillies, this is 4 years in a row, and they haven't won a World Series. It's an old team. So that potentially that could be the end of this era for Phillies baseball. So just a crushing loss for them.
Last one for me here. I kind of wanted to lean into your own favorite stories for postseason, kind of not necessarily improbable wins. I mean, Seattle's a number 2 seed. I know Detroit was late into the season, but kind of in the middle of a collapse. But I think that, David, there are probably a lot of Mariners fans listening to you right now going, oh, God, please remind me that, like, cool things can happen. Is there maybe a favorite story that you have? It could be more recently, too, of, like, maybe, like, a really cool Game 5 or Game 7, or kind of like, when a team had its back against the wall and won, that you kind of maybe are even thinking about heading into this one with Seattle on the ropes here?
I mean, no specific game. I mean, look, my favorite Mariners game, I wasn't at the Edgar double game. The one I remember is the tiebreaker against the Angels when Randy beat one of my favorite players as a kid, Mark Langston, who was a great pitcher in the 80s and then was with the Angels, and he had started that game. And the Mariners, they won that game. Luis Sojo hit that ball down the line. But I think we all think it's going to be the Dodgers because they have the big payroll, or the Yankees, they buy all the free agents. But I think back to 10 years ago, the 2015 Kansas City Royals, who had been to the World Series the year before. They won the next year. It can happen. It's not always the big boys that win these World Series, right? Or, the big games. So it can happen. I would say this to Mariners fans: cheer and shout with confidence. I don't want the players to feel that nervous energy. I'm watching the game the other night. I'm in my hotel room in Philly, and watching the game. Seattle eventually pulled out, but when they blew the lead, I could feel that tension through the TV set, right? So I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Yes.
But I don't know if the players feel that. They're pros. They're so locked in. Probably not, but you gotta lay the hammer down from pitch one, be loud, stand up, and have that belief that they can win the game.
Love the message, David.
Unfortunately, I have a flight around 3:50, so I'm going to be in the air for 2 hours, and the Wi-Fi isn't strong enough for the stream. So I'm going to be looking on my phone, Gamecast, just watching it go down with the dots. So I'll be nervous as heck. Who has to be the X factor? I've been counting on Canzone this every time he's in the lineup. I think he's capable of doing it. Who's your X factor?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't been starting him against lefties, but certainly, look, Skubal, he's only gone over 100 pitches. I think it was 4 times all year. So even though I just said earlier, attack, early, the other plan could be the opposite, which is try to run up his pitch count and get him out after maybe 6 innings, and then Canzone could be a guy off the bench. Gino Suarez, he's all or nothing. If there's ever a time for all, this is the day. So maybe he's my X factor, because if he can just get the ball in play, it can go out of the yard. So he's a big X factor for me.
ESPN's David Schoenfield. Thanks, David. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, David.
Okay, you bet. Thanks.
Bye.